When putting together a logo design proposal document, one of the most crucial things you can do is include in-situ visuals, because they help us demonstrate to a client a logo design working in real-life instances. Here I am in Illustrator, and this is a typical logo proposal document I will put together for a client. Now, as part of my proposal document, I will often include in-situ visuals. And for this project, I'm working on a logo design for a music festival. And at the end of the document, you can see I have a few pages showing how the logo can be used in a series of visuals. Now, one in particular shows how the logo can be used as a paint stamp. At festivals, we often see people wear makeup and face decorations to really celebrate and get into the spirit of the event. At festivals, there are often stalls where people can get stamps and face decorations. For many logo design projects, I could imagine a logo could be used in a fun format like this, which would be great to show in a proposal document. So in this video, I'm going to show you a really quick technique you can use to do this for free with some free resources to help you. In this video, I'm going to show you a really quick technique you can use to show your logo design as a paint stamp. So let's get into it. So here I am with my logo design process checklist. Once we have created our logo designs and we have checked each task, we can now move into step 1 in phase 4. So the first step in the present logo designs phase is place logo into in-situ visual examples. So here I am in Photoshop, and this is what we are going to do in this video. The effect I'm going to use here is quite versatile, which can be applied to lots of different scenarios. If you want to take a closer look at these examples, you can find it in the downloadable course folder. The course folder comes with my complete logo design solution I will be demonstrating on this course, including all my design example files and documents at each step to aid your learning experience. The folder also comes with design resources, such as a logo design process checklist, process documents and templates, a project folder structure, color sample charts, and a logo proposal document example, all of which you can not only learn from, but use in your own design process. To get the full learning experience and use the resources to help develop your own logo project, I recommend you get the course folder. Download link with instructions is in the description. So with the course folder open, click into the resources folder, click into the tutorial folder, click into the mockups folder, and click to open the face paint example Photoshop documents. And you will have the same documents I have open here. So let's see how we can create this effect. So to begin, I'm going to need an image. Now for my project, I'm designing a logo for a music festival, so I'm going to need something that is in the right context. So over on Unsplash, I found a really good image by David Hurley. Here we have a picture of a girl that appears to be at a music festival, so this one is going to work really well for my context. So once I have my image, I'm going to open it up in Photoshop. Now on this occasion, I don't need all of the image here, so I'm quickly going to crop into it. So the first thing I want to do is create the paint effect that will be applied to the skin. So I'll come to the layers panel, duplicate the image layer. I can do this by pressing Command J on Mac or Control J on Windows. I'll right click and then set this as a smart object and rename this to Paint Texture. Really important that I do this step. Okay, so next I'll double click into the smart object layer, and now I need to apply the color effect here. So I'll come into my proposal doc, and for my particular logo design, I'm using 4 individual colors as part of the palette. For the face paint stamp, I want them to be monocolors, so I'll select my first color. Here I'll start with the blue. Over in the fill and stroke, I'll double click on the fill so I can copy the hex code value. Then back into Photoshop, I'll come to the bottom of the layers panel, click on the add adjustment layer icon and select color, and paste the hex code in like so. Okay, so I want this color to apply to the entire image. So I'll come up to the blending mode and select color. What this does is simply apply the color to the entire image below, which works well to create the illusion of blue skin, which maintains all the shadows and details. Now some of the shadows here are looking quite dark. I want to soften this up a little, so I'll come to the color adjustment layer, press Command J on Mac or Control J on Windows to duplicate. Change the blend mode to normal and set the opacity to 50%, and that has just lightened that up a little. So now we can see that the skin has been changed to a nice blue color, which could easily be face paint. So with my two layers, I'll come over and group these and name the group blue. Now, when we think of face paint, it's never completely smooth. There is always some texture to it. So next, I just want to add a subtle texture to the surface of the paint. To do this, I'm going to open a texture I prepared earlier. Now, you can use any grain texture, but you want something like this. If you want to use my grain texture, you can find it in the downloadable folder. So with the course folder open, click into the resources folder, into the tutorial folder, into the mockups folder, into the face paint folder, and you will see the texture available there. So I'll copy the texture and come and paste it onto the top layer and set the blending mode to color burn and change the opacity to around 30%. On this occasion, it's rather large, so I'll use the free transform and scale it down. And now we have some subtle texture on the color to make it feel more chalk-like. So now I have applied some paint texture, I'll close the document and save, and I'm back into my original doc. So now I need to bring in the stamp shape. To do this, it helps to work with a solid shape to use as a guide. So I'll come back to my proposal doc and grab the logo mark I created earlier, copy and paste it into Photoshop, scale up and place onto the cheek, like so. For this image, I want it to look like the girl has had the paint stamped onto her cheek, but right now it does not look right. Next, I need to make the logo look more natural on the contours of her face. A technique you can use here is warp. So I'll come up to Edit, Transform and hit Warp, and click and drag the corners and parts of the image around the cheek so it looks more convincing. When I'm happy with that, I'll hit Enter. So right now this is working as a guide. So I'll hold Command on the keyboard or Control for Windows and click on the thumbnail image. This will make an outline selection of my guide. With my selection active, I'll toggle off the visibility of the guide, bring back the visibility of the paint texture layer, select the paint texture layer and click on the mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel, and we will now have the paint effect stamped on top of the face like so. And if we zoom in, that's looking quite nice, but perhaps a little too perfect. Now when paint is applied to the face, it can sometimes flake off in places. So one last thing to do here is add a subtle flake effect so it does not seem as perfect. To do this, I'm going to open another texture I have prepared earlier. Here I have another grit texture image. Now you can use any flake texture, but you want something like this. If you want to use my flake texture, you can find it in the course folder. So with the course folder open, click into the resources folder, into the tutorial folder, into the mockups folder, into the face paint folder, and you will see the texture available there. So I'll copy the texture and come and paste it on top of my layers panel. And if it's too big, I'll scale it down using free transform, and I want to place it over the paint stamp texture like so. With the texture in place, I'll select all by pressing Command A or Control A for Windows and press Command X or Control X on Windows to cut. I'll come to my paint texture layer and press Command or Control for Windows and press G to group the layer and name this Flake Texture. With the group selected, I'll come down and add a mask layer. With the mask layer applied, I'll hold Alt and click on the mask thumbnail, which will take us into the mask. Right now it's completely white, but if I paste, we will paste the black flake texture into the mask. Now if I click into the bottom layer, we'll go back to the original image. And if we zoom in, we can see some subtle flake effects on the paint texture. What we have done here is use the flake texture to mask the paint, so it appears to flake around the edges. Now if we come and click the lock icon on the flake texture group, we can click on the mask and move it around if we want to explore the flake texture further. And if we really want to, we can press Command T or Control T on Windows on the texture mask and scale it up or down if we want to expand or contract the flake texture mask. And now we have a paint stamp on her cheek. So if we want to come and change the color of the paint, I can double click into the paint texture smart object, click on the blue folder and press Command J or Control J on Windows to duplicate. I'll name this one yellow. I'll come back to my proposal doc, click on my yellow color, copy the hex value from the fill option. Back into Photoshop, I'll double click on each color adjustment layer in the yellow folder and paste in the hex value. And now we have a yellow color. I'll be sure to toggle off the visibility of the blue group below. I'll close and save, and now we have a yellow stamp. Nice. So back into my smart object, I'll do this again but for two new colors, green and magenta. And now I have the flexibility to toggle between my four colors. Easy. So now I have a document set up. It can be really easy to add in additional elements. So here I have added in some circle shapes using the shape tool in Photoshop, and here you can see them in a folder called dots. Just like with the logo, I'll use this as a guide. So I'll duplicate the guide folder and press Command E or Control E on Windows to flatten the layer. I'll come and duplicate the paint texture layer below, right click and delete the layer mask. I'll hit Command on the keyboard or Control for Windows and click on the thumbnail image for the dots. This will make an outline selection of my guide. With my active selection, I'll toggle off the visibility of the guide, select the new paint texture layer and click on the mask icon at the bottom of the layers panel, and we will now have the paint effect stamped on top of the circles. And because this is now inside the same Flake Texture folder, the flake mask will be applied. Now, an optional added extra we can consider is to come to the Flake Texture group, double click and click on Bevel and Emboss. Paint on the face can sometimes have a 3D effect as it is raised off the surface. So here I'm going to make sure this is really subtle, and that looks just right. Now, because I have set up my document nicely, I could easily apply this same effect to another image. So here is another image I got from Unsplash from Dugbar Purely Hushi. Just like earlier, if we duplicate the layer and set it as a smart object, in the same object we can now drag over the texture and colored adjustment layers from our previous image. Back into the original image, if I copy the logo again, paste in position, select the outline and apply the mask, group the layer and apply the Flake Texture mask. Just like that, we can create another example, and I can keep using this technique to create other images too on other parts of the body to show how it could be used as decoration at a festival. So once I have my examples, it's just a case of putting them into my proposal doc. So here in my proposal doc, I have created a page which includes a few examples to show how it could be used. When the client sees this, they will be able to see how the logo can be used in a fun way at a music festival. So when putting together your proposal document, consider using appropriate in-situ visuals, as this can really help sell your design and convince a client of its merits. So over the past few videos, I have shown you how to put together some really cool in-situ visuals to include in a proposal document. Once we have prepared enough in-situ visuals for our logo design, it's then time to think about presenting our logo to the client. When it comes to presenting your logo to a client, you have a few options. You can either purchase a pre-designed template and modify it, or you can build a proposal document yourself from scratch. Now, there are lots of ways you can do this, and there are lots of creative tools you can use. For this course specifically, I have been demonstrating how I put my client proposal document together in Adobe Illustrator. So here I am in Illustrator, and this is a typical proposal document I will use to present my design to a client. In the next video, I'm going to discuss creating a logo proposal document like this from scratch using Adobe Illustrator. So see you in the next video.